Καλημέρα. Good morning. Günaydın. 17-18 χρόνια αρχίζω το μάθημα. Ελπίζω next time I can speak Greek. Ελπίζω. Σιγά σιγά. Let's start with the much talk about the Article 48 of the 4th Geneva Convention, which came into the force in 1949 and still part of the customary law prohibited the mass movement of the people in the territory occupied. Deportation of or forcible transfer of the population is defined as a war crime, as a crime against the humanity under Article 7 of the Rome Statute of International Criminal Court. The International Criminal Tribunal for the former Yugoslavia has tried and in some cases convicted many political and military officials for forcible expelling people from the region. In the case, Article 48 of the 4th Geneva Convention was violated in Cyprus in 1974 in two ways to further the identity process of Turkey. The issues of displacement of the Greek Cypriot is beyond the scope of this speech, but I would like to emphasize that is an ethnic cleansing and a war crime. It is clear from the many recent documents that the ethnic cleansing cannot be used in the narrow sense of the killing all the people in the areas. Recall briefly the Professor Stephen Wolf of the University of Birmingham is in an article, Can Forced Population Transfer Resolve the Self-Determination Conflict? A European perspective described the situation in the Cyprus immediately after August 1974 as follows. In this limited time available, I will focus on the second war crime, the transfer of the occupying country's own population to occupied territories. How should we talk about the population brought, arrived, encouraged to force, come from the Anatolia after 74, starting from the 75? Why are they not all immigrants? Of course, some of them have a status of immigrant according to definition. Some of them can even be called asylum seeker, especially those who fled from the violence and aggression of the Turkish state in Kurdistan. The arrival of some Kurds, some Alevis to the island can actually be considered with the term of asylum seeker, but the demographic engineering of the Turkish state plays an important role here, becoming even some people who fled to Anatolia for security reasons could be turned in the border guard of the Turkish state in the northern part of Cyprus. However, we cannot call all this process colonization in the classical definition, which we are not so agree with the moderators. Because of, in this case, the essence of the Turkish identity project may not be understood. They continue to consider the wall of Cyprus as a herd territory. Therefore, it's not establishing a colony or its own territory in sense of the policies it pursues. It intends to connect to the island to the mainland more tightly through the demographic engineering in the identity process. Therefore, it is important to understand the demographic changing within this framework. Of course, I would like to underline that the term of the academic approach, settler colonialism, is the most appropriate term for Turkey's policies, but it's not sufficient to understand the Turkey's policy in practice. To give an example, in the book titled The Greek of the Imbros on the Gökçeada, the express of the island are discussed with the writing of the different group. The detail in the Elif Babül's article, which was previously published in the magazine New Perspective of Turkey, it's not unfamiliar to us at all. History of Imbros is the Republican period generally pointed to the Turkification project. One of the most basic tools of this project was the resettlement of policy that were implemented following practices of the Ottoman Empire. Starting with the resettlement of the 10 households brought in from the Black Sea in the 1948 by the state, the island was subjected to systematic migration, resettlement, exploitation, and renaming project. Today, 4 of the 9 villages of the island and the 1 large neighborhood appear on the settlement village established by the state to accommodate those coming from the Anatolia. The author state that the state intervention, the Turkification of the island, is not limited to resettlement policy. She gave the information about what does such a settlement of the battalion in the Çanakkale, the banning of the Greek language in schools with the mixed Turkish-Greek language education, the creation of the open prison for agricultural, the establishment of the state production farm, changing the name of Imbros to Gökçeada, with the decrease in the 1970s and giving the Turkish name to the village on the island. The information at the conclusion of all this strike in 1923, 8,500 Greeks lived on the island, but by 2000, the ratio of the Greeks to the Turks had changed to 200 to 8,000. Let us make last question with the following. The Turkish state, which holds the sovereignty right to Imbros, does not allow the Greeks to own the island, but only to remember it. With the imaginary of the nation state, Imbros is defined not as a place to return to, but as a place to remember. So, can Imbros compare to the northern part of Cyprus? Depending on the some point view, yes. It's useful to recall what the Nihal Atsız, one of the nationalist theorists, wrote in the 85 issues of the Ötüken magazine in 1971. Atsız wrote, to regain our lost provinces and continue. Cyprus is the island that has remained as a Turkish country for centuries and has become our property. Just as the Hatay was taken back, Cyprus will also take him back. The fact that the Turkish population is small today's situation can never take away our historical right. When the state of Israel was established, what was the percentage of Jewish in the today's Israel? When the nation has a strong nationality beliefs, it knows how to take back the right and fill those lands with 100% of their own people. Nihal Atsız's approach is not unfounded. Fuat Dündar's book, The Code of the Modern Turkey, are a great help in understanding the population policies of Ottoman Empire and the Young Turks. Fuat Dündar defined the Turkification of Anatolia by the Young Turk as an ethnical engineering. He stated that it was preferred because it shows that the Unionists used the relocation and the settlement not only a means of the Turkification, but also as a tool of war strategy. Fuat Dündar argues that the colonization of concrete land was the one outward population movement. Dündar writes, as a part of the population and the colonization policy, the Ottoman Beylik intervened the ethno-religious composition of the land after each conquest. Every conquest and the colonization in the Balkan was accompanied by the systematic policy of the transferring and the settlement. For this purpose, some population from Anatolia was systematically transferred to the conquered land. Semra Purkis and Hatice Kurtuluş reached the title Nature of the Turkish Migration to the Northern Cyprus and the Economic, Social, Spatial Integration Problem of the Migrant under the umbrella of the TÜBİTAK, the Scientific and the Technological Research Institute of Turkey. This research was later published as a book. The book published in the Turkish İş Bankası, but I don't have time to mention, but there's 2 more book mention about the settlers, oral histories and other things. They make some quotation from the where established the connection with the Imbros from the studies. Following the protocol signed in the February 75, announcements were made through the governors in the 14 provinces in Turkey, where the village was lands were or would be under the Dam Lake or Woz village had declared the landslide zone or in the forest. The migrant would be taken to the Cyprus. The muhtars about the condition under which they would migrate, but they would settle, the social right, they would have the agricultural land and the house they would like to give, and the speeches were made encourage migration. Situation is also clearly expressed in the oral history interview. The delegation that came to us at that time said, there is a lot of money in Cyprus. The government will give you enough money to feed you, will give you enough money to start a business, and they did. They did for a while. The situation was not very different in the Ottoman Empire. Again, from the Fuat Dündar's book, Anatolia's Muslims were tried to be attractive to the conquest region with the incentives such as the free land, exemption from the military service, and the taxation. The Ottoman Empire, Young Turks, Imbros, Cyprus population movement, transferring exile, how many signatories they have, despite the tens and hundreds of years between each other. In the research of the Semra Purkiz and the Hatice Kurtuluş, migrant from the Turkey is divided in the three phases. The first wave of the migration is determined as follows. The wave of the migration, which starting in the late 1975, lasted until the early 1980s. This first wave of the migrant were taken by buses from the certain part of the Turkey as a whole village, communities, rural neighborhood, and transported to Mersin port. And from there, they were carrying to Famagusta port by ship. The migrants were taken to the camp in Famagusta, and from there, within the framework of the certain settlement plan, they were settled in the village that had been emptied of the Greek seaport, looted, and many of them were in ruins, bearing the traces of the war. Second wave of the migration from the Turkey to the northern part has been on the rise since the mid-1980s as a form of migration, opportunity-led migration, which also the influences by the Immigration Network Forum by the first wave, but mainly the driving by the opportunities for financial gain in Cyprus. The rise of the second wave of continued until 1990s. This new wave was triggered by the new agreement and the legal arrangement between the TRNC and Turkey, as well as the financial professional gain opportunities created by some special condition in the northern Cyprus. To gain some time, I'm not reading all of them. Hope you can read it. Maybe a little bit small, but... After the 81, the political environment in the northern part of Cyprus was in a favor of the opposition. Although this issue is not included in the research, it is possible to read about it through the factor that they triggered, but they triggered the second waves. On the other hand, legal regulation and bilateral agreement between the Turkey and the TRNC, made during this period, play an important role to rise of the second wave of the migration from the Turkey to the northern Cyprus. So the changing the Turkish liras and the agreements on there, you can read it. In this period, the incoming population was rapidly granted the citizenship, and the election result of the period were tried to be determined. Third wave is a literally economic internal migration. Again, maybe a little bit small, but you can read it. moderator not angry to me, so I'm not reading them. In the last part of my talk, I would like to focus on the 1975, as all traces of the population transfer are clearly visible there. The number of the first wave migration brought to the northern Cyprus from the Turkey is 1975-1976, based on the agricultural labor protocol and resettled under state security, together with those who individually appealed to migrants between the 1975 and the 1979, amounting to 82,500 people. 20-25% of the population returned within a year. This is from this research, page 60. Of course, again, it was not what the Turkish Cypriot says, but the number of the people Turkey deemed to appropriate was brought in, which we can also read it in the research. The first 30,000 people that the Turkish state, Turkish Federate State of the Cyprus, before the TRC-1, established in 1975, urgently request from the Turkey under the name of agricultural labor force were provided by the intensive work of the resettlement director in the Turkey in the process described above. When the above is reading all together, 82,500 people arrived and approximately 65,000 people stayed on the island until the 1980s. When you think that the total population of Turkish Cypriot 120,000, the 65,000 people is a little bit too much. Despite the Turkish Cypriot saying that the 30,000 people were needed, they sent 65,000 people. If you are still in a doubt whether this is not a population transfer, the statement of the İsmet Kotak, who managed these issues, may enlighten you. He said that, let me also say that we used to bring the migrants to the Famagusta by ship at night. The ship would come to the night because the peace force, UN peace force, was on guard on the city walls. Therefore, so that there would be take a picture, you know, there was no such things as a night vision at the time. We will bring them at night, not during the day. 2 ferries would arrive at the port at the same time. We were preparing our buses and we were picking them up with the lightning speed, and of course they set off to an unknown direction. The current rector building of the Eastern Mediterranean University was an old Greek school, were turned into the dormitory. We welcome to the arrivals at the port. Firstly, with a speech inside of the ship saying, welcome, it's your duty to make this place your homeland. And then we divided them into the bus under the guidance of the Muhtar. Let's make the one last quota. Here from the Sema Erder, author of the book, from the forced resettlement of the displacement. Most recent application of the traditional resettlement institution of the revival, in Turkish say that şenlendirme, it's like a festival, took place after the military operation in Cyprus 1974. The most interesting one in terms of the subject is the project of the settling is a trusted population in the properties of evacuated from the Greeks in order to maintain the production in the agricultural land to ensure the border security. It is clear that the practice is similar to autonomous practice of the revival, şenlendirme, that had been carried out the centuries in the occupied land after the war. You can read it, page 222, 223 on the book. All this fact shows that the Turkey is the transferring, moving, encouraging the transfer of population to the northern part of Cyprus. Final words. On the 5th anniversary of the occupation of the Turkey, 49 years after the first wave of the migration from Turkey, unfortunately, we still cannot discuss the issues with all its aspects. Everyone is trying to define the elephant in the room from the place they are holding with their own ideological approach. In these 50 years, not only the demographic structure has, but the whole segment, including the existing population, have also undergone cultural changing due to assimilation policies. For all these reasons, time is not moving in favor of the Cypriot. We have to solve the Cyprus problem for many different reasons, but especially because of the demographic structure continuously changing today. Otherwise, as the fascist writer Nihalatsız said, they will regain some of their lost provinces forever. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Murat, for your speech.